Welcome back, Anna.
Thanks for having me, Michael. Great to be back with you. Always love the Beyond Your Wildest Dreams discussions.
Thank you. So, your first book was wildly successful, and you're a busy practitioner, and you decide to dive back in and do another one. So, tell me why.
Oh, because there's such a need. There's such a need, and we can always do better, right? For me, certainly for, writing a book has been a labor of love. It's a hard thing to go from my head to paper more often than not, and especially in creating recipes, but creating a plan that works, that's beyond what we eat in order to get to the underlying reasons that we're maybe not thriving or flourishing. I love that word flourish much better, that we're not flourishing the way we should be. Then, and we can so simply. My primary reason, honestly, is to empower individuals to be their own best physician, to take care of themselves in the best way. And, as physicians, we're their guides, they're, educators, they're, accountability partners, but ultimately bringing the responsibility and power back to the individual.
Wonderful. And your first book, I just so I can put it in the show notes, was The Hormone Fix.
Yes, The Hormone Fix.
So, go ahead.
And I was going to say, I always say, it takes more than hormones to fix your hormones.
It does. It does. For somebody, my wife, who was a cancer survivor and was put into surgical menopause with her surgery for cancer. It is so much more than just the hormones, but that's another story for another day. But all right, so you sat down and you wrote this Keto Green 16. Let's dive into this. You know what? I'm sorry. Let's give people a little bit more of your background. Why this aspect of functional medicine? Why functional medicine as a DO?
Mm-hmm. Well, and especially as a DO, just learning that, how important our neuroanatomy is and how one part's connected to another. It was, and also in osteopathic medical school, we did have coursework on nutrition, but I had grown up in a food as medicine household in a way. Very traditional, the dandelion tea to help with your blood sugar, the za'atar, thyme and sesame and olive oil to make you smarter, like rub olive oil on your belly if you have a belly ache. It was kind of like, just learning how to use food as medicine and certain ways that you eat and time. We ate dinner early. We ate dinner early every night, like by 4 p.m. My dad had worked 2 jobs, so we ate in between his 2 jobs. But that was very traditional for my mom's family too, and that's how we grew up. And so when I recognized, as part of my own health journey, going through being diagnosed at age 39 with early menopause and infertility, I was devastated as a gynecologist and obstetrician, as a physician, as, a lover of science and medicine in the clinic. My doctor's bag was empty. I knew there, it took me literally on a journey around the world to find out more.
Well, that's fascinating. So it was instilled in you when you were younger. Your mom and dad were way ahead of their time in terms of looking at nature and looking at these are not weeds; these are actual medicinal in nature. So that was instilled in you really early on. Mm-hmm. You think that obviously it had to play a role in what's the word? Diverting from the traditional DO schooling.
Yeah. Well, and even in at residency at Emory, I would think, okay, well, what can I do as a DO that allopathic docs weren't trained to do? Mm-hmm. So from physical manipulation, from IV nutritional therapies, those definitely additional aspects. But then going into understanding for myself, really as a physician, we do the best we can with our prescription pads and our surgical knives, but in my own personal life is where functional medicine really started to hone in. My firstborn was 6 years old, and she was clearly attention deficit, right? Disorder, actually ADHD. I took her to a friend of mine and a psychiatrist, and she said absolutely ADHD. I mean, she couldn't even sit still in the evaluation. She was climbing up the bookshelves, and I was like, I don't know. And I didn't know at that time. This was back in, was it 2000, I think, and, hadn't heard of functional medicine. I was a working mom doing the best I could, right? Mm-hmm. And so we tried Adderall for a couple days, but it changed her personality. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And at that time I was already studying like with Dr. Neil Rosier in bioidentical hormones and learning more because I was studying helping my clients with sexual health. I was like the only doc in this area that would even talk about sexual health. And so I was really digging in to learn more. And I happened to sit next to a doctor, we were discussing what was going on, and she said, well, you need to do organic acid testing, and here's this functional medicine, this analysis. And that's where I learned about functional medicine testing. And I was a chemist and did physiology before I went to medical school. So for me, I was all perked up. I was like, oh, of course, that makes sense. Krebs cycle. Okay, let's get down into the mitochondria. Okay. I was really excited because I so deviated from that. And so I tested her, I tested my daughter with this functional medicine panel and, added omega-3s, added, methylated vitamins, took her off of basics, took her off of sugar, reduced her amount of gluten and dairy. And it helped. It helped so much. I mean, she didn't ever have to go on any medications. And so that, for me, that was eye-opening to me to just understanding when we get to this, like as we get to the smallest, cellular function and make an improvement there, how that rewires us completely and how that really turns on the good genes, turns off the bad genes. And that's what we want to empower certainly in our family members. And then my journey took me further, even further down that route.
It's very interesting, those of us who go beyond our traditional training and kind of fall into functional medicine. It is usually out of necessity to help ourselves or a loved one. And the same is true with my wife. When after she went through this, there were some tough days, and we were still eating a traditional diet. And I just remember I read Rob Wolf's book, The Paleo Solution. I said, I think, hey, hun, I think you should give this a try. It has some good science behind it, and maybe the gluten's affecting you more than you think. And I mean, so I did it first on myself, and shoulder pain I'd had from playing baseball for 30 years disappeared in 30 days. And she tried it, and it was like, wow. And then the next step was, let's take a look at bioidentical hormones. And it was like the angels were singing her name. And it was truly, you look at it, it's like it's miraculous, but it's not. It comes down to just following the breadcrumbs, looking at the science, and I want to say chopping wood and carrying water. It really just sticking to it. And since that time, we've not had any gluten. And I can tell you, we've actually probably healthier 10 years later than we were then. Pretty remarkable.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Remarkable.
Yes. So you decide to go in and write a second book. Keto Green.
What was I thinking?
Yeah, what were you thinking? Obviously, you're thinking that you enjoyed the first time so much that you should absolutely sit down and do this again.
There are some of us that are gluttons for punishment and slow learners.
So tell me, what is Keto Green 16? Tell our audience, explain how this looks to you.
Yeah. So the whole concept, like we know about keto everywhere, right? And we can defer like keto dirty, for example, butter and bacon, and we think processed foods and processed cheese. I mean, you can be keto and have a, gas station hot dog with Velveeta, right?
Yeah.
But there's keto dirty and you're like, yes, can I have one extra kraut, please? And, there's keto dirty and there's keto clean, which is keto green. And this difference, especially for women, I mean, men can get away with it. They have 10 times as much anabolic hormones than we do, right? 10 times as much testosterone. And so, but women, that cortisol balance is really important. That alkalinizing part is really important. I've now run my Keto Green program in thousands of women in my online groups and online programs, and just see the transformation going from, a standard keto to keto green, what a difference it makes. And not just theoretically with the low carbohydrate greens and the alkalinizing vegetables, but also testing, not guessing, actually checking your urine pH and urine ketones to get into that, that you're getting alkaline and getting into ketosis. So I'm going to deviate a second, then I'll come back to the book, but urine pH testing, Michael, this, it's another vital sign. It is as important, if not more, than our pulse, our blood pressure, our weight, our temperature. It is another vital sign. When we are stressed, when we are malnourished, when our body's not getting what it needs, we're going to be more acidic. And we'll see that in our urine pH, not blood pH. That we know that arterial blood gas. We will rob Peter to pay Paul to keep that stable at a slightly alkaline 7.4. But our urine pH varies with our stress level because cortisol increases urinary acidity. So as much as my Keto Green way is about the food we eat, it's also about the way we eat it, the lifestyle we live, the thoughts we keep. And so I really talk in the Keto Green way. There's the 16-day plan here to make it quick, efficient, hormone balancing, really powerful. But then there is the, alkalinizing component of empowering oxytocin and managing cortisol. So that's what makes Keto Green really special, and Keto Green 16 even more special, because in 16 days we're getting fabulous results. And with this, it is about getting into ketosis. And with that, we want to get our body into ketosis, not just supplement with exogenous ketones. There's nowhere in my book that I talk about that. Certainly it's an option, but it's not an answer. And, getting into ketosis through intermittent fasting, that's huge. So we put in 16 hours of intermittent fasting, and every one of us can work into this, as well as 16 key food types to make cooking easy and shopping easy to really balance our body, 16 key foods. And then, again, the 16-day plan, that's really special. And I also added in for, by popular demand and feedback on my book, The Hormone Fix, a whole chapter in here for men. I did not leave men out this time. I included them. So it's exciting to see that. We ran some group medical visits. We've been running group medical visits with the Keto Green 16 plan. And what we've seen is, this is at an independent clinic in North Florida Integrative Medicine, in doing group medical visits, now virtual because of coronavirus, in 16 days, average age, because we wanted people in the group that were menopausal, specifically asked for menopausal, postmenopausal women. And on average, they lost in 16 days. I mean, this is, again, I would have been happy with a 3-pound weight loss. But what happened? These women lost an average of 9 pounds in 16 days. Their symptom scores, which we do with the MSQ, Medical Symptom Toxicity Questionnaire, we do that. Their symptom scores in 16 days dropped greater than 50%. Their waist loss was 1.2 inches on average. Huge improvements. And this data, it does not include the man in the study that did this last round of Keto Green 16, came in it with his wife. He lost in 16 days, quite disappointingly, 30 pounds. And he's weaned off to a fraction of his blood pressure medicine because his blood pressure dropped so significantly. So we do see this really healthy and quick, cellular shift. And that's powerful.
So